Hello and welcome to GUTV. My name is Dean Saranac and I'm the executive producer for today's show. Today's the third installment of our Bracketology show and we are so excited to bring it to you. For today's show, we have a lot to get into. We're talking about the Zags' progress in the NCAA tournament, we're going to take a deep dive into the NCAA pay-for-play debate, and we're going to highlight our very own GUTV program. Like I said, we've got a lot to dive into, so without further ado, let's get started.
Hello and welcome to the third installment of GUTV Bracketology for 2019. My name is Jacob Dizon.
And I'm Nash Thompson.
We have a wonderful show in store for you all today with a look into the career of GUTV alum Nicole Mesquite, a feature on our very own GUTV senior Andrew Quinn, a dive into the NCAA pay-for-play debate, and of course the return of our very own basketball specialist panel discussion.
But first, we have some updates on our Zags' progress in the NCAA tournament. Unfortunately, the women's basketball team fell to a strong Oregon State team on Monday, 76-70. The women's team had one of their most successful regular seasons ever and have a lot to look forward to in the future.
As for the men's team, the Bulldogs have reached the Sweet 16 for the fifth consecutive year after taking down number 9 seed Baylor by a score of 83-71. Standing between the men's team and the Elite Eight, however, is number 4 seed Florida, who the Bulldogs face later today as they try to avenge their loss to the Seminoles last year. Good luck to you, Bulldogs.
Now, we love all of the players on our men's basketball team, but we have a special connection with Alex Martin and Paul Pennington. Alex is a redshirt sophomore on the men's basketball team and is a member of our intermediate broadcasting class, while Paul is a freshman currently in our beginning class. We're so happy to have Alex and Paul with us in the program, as it's pretty tough to reach the cable trays above us without a stepladder. Thanks for your help, Alex and Paul.
We'd also like to thank all of the wonderful donors who have donated to GUTV thus far. And if you'd like to make any further contributions to our program, visit the link on the screen to help our program out as much as you can. We deeply appreciate any and all donations you can give. We also have participants in this year's Bracketology competition as well. And with more on the standings on that, we have the great Rory Loughran standing by in our Opila suite. Rory?
Thank you, Jacob. Now, this week, I'm sure many of your brackets have been busted at this point, but the GUTV Bracketology competition will still go on. Now, as a reminder for our 3 divisions, we have current students, family and friends, and GUTV alumni. So today we're going to break down the rankings in each of those divisions. For the GUTV alumni division, in 3rd place, we have Katie Carl. In 2nd place, we have Veronica Murray. And holding down the number 1 spot, we have Robert Perry. Congratulations, Robert. Moving on to the Friends and Family division, we have Brittany Mikes in 3rd, we have Katie Scrimgauer in 2nd, and in 1st place we have Austin Carr, while his brother lies in dead last. Moving on to the current students division, we have Ethan McReynolds in 3rd, we have Arden Cravallo, our panel host, at number 2, and holding down the top spot is our very own Chrissy Lubke. Now, I'm sure Chrissy spent a lot of time on her bracket in the last week, but she also had the opportunity to sit down with Nicole Mesquite, a GUTV alum, who is this week's Alumni of the Week.
You're a hard worker and you're willing to learn. You're going to make it.
Nicole Mesquite graduated from Gonzaga in 2010.
Broadcasting was a huge part of my time here. Dan Garrity was kind of, my mentor through just how to learn the skill of telling someone's story. I came here because of broadcasting. I've always really resonated with people's stories.
In telling those stories, Nicole is thankful for the lessons GUTV taught her.
GUTV, this broadcasting department and Gonzaga really equipped me with a lot of skills to be a hard worker and to love learning and to take constructive criticism and use it to empower myself. Once I got into the workforce, I think the things that I got here, the skills that I learned, allowed me to realize, like, okay, I actually do have what it takes, and I can be confident in that and go forth and just continue learning.
Nicole started working at KHQ in 2012.
I worked on the morning show for 6 years, which was an incredible experience, and I learned so much, grew a ton in that job, but morning news is very brutal.
That tough workload helped her focus her passions elsewhere.
Ultimately, I just kind of had another purpose in my heart that I wanted to pursue, which kind of came about after opening up that I had been struggling with an eating disorder for 10 years. And sharing that shameful part of myself, something that I never thought I would tell anybody, ended up leading to the most incredible healing and really opportunity in my life that I did not expect. The stories I've always loved to tell are more people's stories anyway. And so I felt like I could really kind of hone in on that passion and purpose if I stepped out and did something on my own.
Nicole took the skills she learned at KHQ and took them on a new journey.
I started a platform called Uncovered with Nicole Mesquite, which is really a lot of lessons to myself, lessons that I've learned or lessons that I am learning.
Nicole drew on her past life experiences to help create her new business.
My big vision is to continue sharing stories of people in our community who have overcome, whether it's tremendous loss, tragedy, something shameful like I did, or something that was painful. My goal is to continue sharing stories of people who have been through something like that, worked through the healing, and have come out on the other side with a message of hope or inspiration.
Nicole is now finding joy in her current adventure.
I love sharing stories of people, and I love sitting down and finding out like what someone has been through and what makes them the way they are, and I love sharing stories that inspire and empower and let the rest of us know that if they made it, then I can make it too. Listen to that voice, it's there for a reason, and opportunities will come your way that you never imagined were possible.
Chrissy Lubke, GUTV.
We would like to thank Nicole for that look inside her career, as well as how GUTV has helped her along the way. Now back to you, Jacob, at the desk.
Thank you for that update, Rory. It'll be interesting to see how the standings shift in the coming days.
One of the things that Gonzaga students, staff, and alum all suffer from each March is the media's mispronunciation of Gonzaga, or should I say Gonzaga.
But this year, Zags across the globe have been hit by something far harsher and painful than any mispronunciation. On his March 18th show, Jimmy Kimmel, whose Jimmy Kimmel Live comes regularly third in ranking among late-night talk show hosts, he had a few choice words to say about Gonzaga.
To quote Kimmel, "I've never heard the word Gonzaga outside of college basketball. Gonzaga is the I have a girlfriend in Canada of colleges. Ouch." Well, Jimmy, all of us at GUTV would just like to inform you that yes, Gonzaga is real and we're all here right now. It may seem as a shock to you, but you're always welcome to come and visit, and we can tell you about all the wonderful things we have that aren't basketball. We promise that you won't be picked up from the airport and left in the desert. We don't even have a desert in Spokane.
We're going to let you mull that over the break, Jimmy, and afterwards we'll be highlighting our GUTV Senior of the Week, Andrew Quinn, and taking a deep dive into the NCAA pay-for-play debate. I'm Jacob Bizon, and you're watching Bracketology on GUTV.
What is faith? Where is God? If you have these questions, explore them in a CLC.
My name is Bryce Rickers, and I'm a CLC group leader. CLC stands for Christian Life Community. People can get out of CLC a sense of comfort, a sense of safety. To get involved with CLC, students can go right to the University Ministry Office. All groups are willing and ready to accept any new participants.
Good morning, beautiful.
Hey, I like your smile. Great job. Keep up the good work.
Hey, your shirt looks really good on you.
And this here is the kindest girl on Gonzaga's campus. You're the best. I love GU.
Welcome back to GUTV Bracketology. Being a GUTV student is a great way to prepare yourself for being able to potentially work in a newsroom in the future. But sometimes, a student like Andrew Quinn gets that experience while they're enrolled at GU.
Andrew currently works at Creme 2 News here in Spokane and has learned a great deal about the news industry through first-hand experience, which makes him our GUTV Senior of the Week.
Our Senior of the Week is Andrew Quinn. Andrew is a broadcasting major from San Diego, California. Growing up, he always had a love for anything sports-related.
Yeah, so growing up, as far back as I can remember, when I'm playing games with my friends like baseball, wiffle ball, flag football, stuff like that, I was always commenting on what was going on, always commentating. Growing up in San Diego, I listened to Matt Vasgersian call Padres games, and now he works at MLB Network. And, just growing up, listening to guys call football games, basketball games, baseball games, soccer, I was like, that sounds like something I'd be interested in doing. Oh man, I walked in here freshman year being like, I'm gonna be the next, Jim Nance, be on TV calling games, and then, you go into your first day with Dan, and he's just kind of like, all right, well, we're gonna take you through everything, and just learning what goes on behind the scenes, production control, learning how to edit, learning how to run prompter, TD, direct. All of that is just huge experience for me, and it's something that I wasn't expecting, but I knew the first time I ever did an interview here, I got a little nervous beforehand, but I knew that this is what I wanted to do. My favorite experience was putting together the Bracketology 2 show in 469. That was my favorite experience. I anchored that with Olivia Roberts, and we got to write our own script and kind of make some jokes about March Madness and kind of like bring in the brackets and stuff like that, which is what I'm interested in. And Franny Boyle was our producer, and it was so much fun putting that show together. The show looked awesome. Our technical precision was really good that show, and it was just a lot of fun to put together, and that's probably been my favorite moment in GUTV, was putting together that show.
In the fall semester of 2018, Andrew had the opportunity to work with SWX, a local network for high school and college sports.
So that was awesome. I showed up there the first couple times I went to my internship. They basically just had me, helping out producing the shows, like putting in stories and stuff like that. But then they started sending me out once Eastern football got going with Rob Jesselson, and I got to follow that team all the way from week 2 up until they made it to the national championship. And so that was just a lot of fun, getting to know some of the players, getting to know Coach Best, really getting to follow that team. That was obviously a special team, making it all the way to the national championship. In 5 years, I hope I'm at least anchoring sports somewhere. I think that would be a good stepping stone for me. Obviously, I'd love it if I was doing play-by-play for a college or a minor league team by then, but you never know. It's a very, very crowded field. There's a lot of people that want to do what I'm doing, and so I think that if I'm anchoring in 5 years, that would be a good step for me. But obviously, if I'm able to get a play-by-play gig, that would be my dream.
Wherever Andrew ends up, he will undoubtedly make an impact in whatever role he may find himself in. For GUTV, I'm Eric Rosu.
As much fun as it is to enjoy all the college basketball this month, this year's March Madness is not without controversy.
There has been an ongoing discussion among sports writers and fans on whether or not NCAA athletes should be paid for playing for their schools, and recent advertising from the NCAA has sparked a fierce debate on social media. GUTV's Francis Minigan and Themio Palace say that this debate wages on amongst student athletes here at GU as well.
For years, the NCAA has been the center of a heated debate over whether student athletes should be paid or not. Just last week, the debate was exacerbated by a promotional video the NCAA posted to Twitter showcasing the life of a student athlete. The video sparked an internet-wide controversy over the inaccurate portrayal of the day-to-day life of student athletes, which is contrastingly known to be characterized by high stress and little free time. With collegiate athletic department revenues skyrocketing all over the nation, it begs the question of whether athletes are being taken advantage of by the programs they dedicate so much of themselves to. To be eligible to compete, student athletes must fulfill a long list of requirements, including a certification of amateurism, with a clause that renders them ineligible if they accept payment or benefits from anyone based on their identity as a college athlete.
As an athlete, you couldn't have been paid before, and if you would have been paid for your skills anyway before, that's not legal, and then you can't get any extra benefits. So I can't even get a free meal from someone who's not, free coffee, free meal from anyone who's not family related.
Though the regulations are set in place, there are always the cases of those who evade them and get caught, like the recent case of BYU guard Nick Emery, who was temporarily suspended for accepting $12,000 worth of benefits from boosters. Aside from sponsorships, student athletes are barred from situations where they may brand themselves, which some find demeaning and hindering to their work life outside of sports.
I was a part of this company over the summer, and I was gonna be in a video for them, but they had to contact the school here to see if it would be okay, and I couldn't do it just because I'm an athlete.
With the busy schedules and high-stress environments student athletes face every day, it can start to feel like a job.
I'll lift at 7 in the morning, then I'll have class, and then I'll have practice still, but I'll be running from practice to class, and I have 5 minutes between each thing, and I don't get home till 6 o'clock at night, and then I'm expected to do my homework then. It's super tough. The commitment that we put into it is brutal.
It takes up our whole day most of the time.
Because they say student athlete, but it just sounds better saying student athlete than it does athlete student, because at the end of the day, I'm here to play soccer.
And a 4-on-3 run out and
Both Quinn and Carter brought up the case of fellow NCAA student athlete and soon-to-be professional Sian Williamson of Duke.
This man could be making so much money, but he doesn't get a single penny from the NCAA, and he's making them so much money right now. It's unbelievable.
I guess you could say, oh, he's getting a degree and that's worth more, but this guy's not there to get a degree. This guy's there to go on to the next level and make millions of dollars.
Whether the NCAA will start paying its players or loosen the rules around accepting benefits is unknown, but for the time being, it's work hard, play hard for NCAA athletes. Francis Minigan, GUTV.
Thank you to Quinn and Carter for your insight into this hotbed discussion that is sure to lead to some changes in the NCAA in the near future.
Coming up after the break, we will have our buzzer beater panel of Gonzaga basketball specialists hosted by our own Arden Carvalho. They'll discuss the progress of the men and women's basketball teams in the tournament and what they have left in store. I'm Nash Thompson, and you're watching Bracketology.
Okay, class, you have 60 minutes. And it's 240 points.
Welcome back to GUTV Bracketology. I'm your host, Arden Carvalho. We've reached the Sweet 16, and what a tournament it's been so far. The men and women's team have impressed, and there is a lot to unpack. Sadly, Stephen Carr was unable to make it today, maybe because of the shame of being dead last in our bracket competition. Sorry, Stephen. But in his place, we have KHQ sports reporter Rob Jesselson joining us. And as always, we're still joined with former KHQ sports reporter and current GU professor John Collette, as well as our host of last year's bracketology panel and current GU senior Anderly Penwell. Anderly, John, welcome back. Rob, welcome to the program. Glad to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Stephen Carr is having quite the tournament, huh?
Yeah, we really went at him right there.
How convenient that he happened to be out of town this week. Yeah, very convenient.
Very happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us. We appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So before we actually get talking about Gonzaga basketball, let's look at the remaining teams in all the other regions besides the West. Sure. So let's start with the South bracket right now. The South has Virginia and Oregon. Oregon's the highest remaining seeded team in this tournament left. We also have Purdue and Tennessee left in this, and they will play the winner of Virginia-Oregon. So, Anderly, I'm looking at this Virginia-Oregon matchup right now, and as I said, Oregon's the highest remaining seeding team. Do you think they have any chance of knocking off a number-one seed team in Virginia?
I think they kind of got the short end with the stick of being a number 12 team. I think they're a very good number 12 team. They beat Wisconsin, who has Ethan Happ, who's one of the better Wisconsin players and one of the better players in the country, in a really great game. They're also just really athletic, really fun to watch, great program out there. So I think they could beat them. They have to have all cylinders firing, can be completely on the same page, but I think that Virginia had a little possible flashback to last year with the first Gardner-Webb game, so they can, they're a little shaky, I guess, maybe, but they're still a really great team, so if Oregon plays very well, I think they could maybe pull one up.
And the reason they beat Ethan Happ was because of Kenny Wooten, who had a career high, or actually tied his career high with 7 blocks. So they have a good chance as long as he's on the court. So let's take a look at now the Midwest bracket, which has North Carolina. They're taking on a great defensive team in Auburn. And then on the other side of that, Houston and Kentucky, which should be a fast-paced game. We're looking forward to that. Rob, you see this Houston-Kentucky game. We've got a video of P.J. Washington, who actually is back from injury. He hasn't played a game in the NCAA tournament. Do you think that's a big factor for Kentucky going into this game against the Houston Cougars?
Yeah, absolutely. P.J. Washington being back from injury, I think that's huge. He provides a big spark for Kentucky and John Calipari's team. Remember, this is a Wildcats group that is, in a way, year in and year out, built for March. They make runs in the tournament pretty much every year, it seems like. And on the other side, you've got Houston, who's in the Sweet 16. I don't know when the last time they were here.
Like
but
5 slam and jam.
Yeah. There you go. So Houston, they're a team that has obviously been great from day one of the season. They've got a lot of momentum going into this game. I like Kentucky, though.
I will take Kentucky, too. I got them in my Final Four, so I'll keep going with that.
There you go.
All right, so let's look at the East bracket now. That's with the Duke, the number 1 overall seed in this whole tournament, taking on Virginia Tech, and then also LSU and Michigan State on the other side of that. And John, you see that Duke-Virginia Tech game. You've got to see Duke play UCF, which was the best game in the tournament by far, easily, right? So when you saw that game, there was a lot of blown calls in your mind. Do you think UCF got a little out of that one because of the referees?
We can always, I mean, hindsight might always be 20/20, and if you had, Taco, the big 7-footer, in there for the final minutes, maybe Sian Williamson or RJ Barrett doesn't get that rebound and put it back. You could debate that. I think the bottom line, though, is UCF's got to get that rebound on the missed free throw. They didn't. RJ put it up. They even had a chance to win it. 2 shots that, when you watch it in replay, like either one could have gone. So they had their opportunities, and Duke moves on. I think the other thought, though, going forward now is this Duke team, the media has kind of blown them out of proportion. They are incredible. Zion's amazing. Now we're going to see we've seen some more criticism. They can't shoot the ball. Zion's amazing. Yes. RJ's awesome. But can they shoot the ball? Now's really, it's been a chalky week, but now the best teams are available, and you got to show your best stuff.
And also back to that Duke-UCF game, they had a chance of getting that lead to 6 off a missed alley-oop. So you got to blame a little bit on UCF's part, but still, there is a little, in my mind, some blown calls that could have gone UCF's way. All right, so let's take a look at our last bracket, which is Gonzaga's bracket, the West one. Gonzaga, as we're going to be talking about, they play the 4-seeded Florida State Seminoles. And the other side of that, the Texas Tech Red Raiders will take on the Michigan Wolverines. Some good matchups there in the West, most definitely. So let's talk about and break down the Florida State game against Gonzaga, starting with you, John.
Yeah.
Florida State, obviously a familiar foe for the Gonzaga Bulldogs. They lost them in Sweet 16 last year. Round 2 this time around. What needs to be done for the Gonzaga Bulldogs to get a win?
Well, last year's look at the box score. Gonzaga shot about 33%. They were without Tilly, and they didn't have the depth that this team has. So they certainly have some things in their corner, but it's not one guy. Collectively, they need to shoot above 40%, ideally 50, and shoot well from beyond the arc. They're going to face some size and athleticism they haven't seen since facing North Carolina and Tennessee in the pre-conference season, if you will. So it's going to be all hands on deck, really from this point on. And this is a huge test for them going forward. I like their chances in this game, but simply said, they have to score more points than the other team. They need to make some shots and be confident and show what Gonzaga basketball looks like, or at least like what we saw in the first 2 games of the tournament for them.
And they definitely need to slow down Terrence Mann, who's effective from all over the floor. So that's their main goal right now, to slow him down as much.
He had 18 last
time.
Yes,
he
last
did.
year.
He was the leading scorer in that game. So we need to slow him down. Rob, we're looking at now that Gonzaga is a 7-point favorite against this team. They're lanky. They're athletic. It seems a little too good to be true. Do you think that's a little too much for this spread?
I don't know if it's too much. I think it's right about where it should be. Gonzaga, as John just mentioned, I mean, they're such a good team. We talked about Kentucky just a few minutes ago, how they're a team that's built for March. I think that Mark Few has done a fantastic job of putting this team together with the intent of them making it back to the Final Four, if not further. Florida State is a tough team, though. I mean, we all know what happened last year. This is a Florida State team that may not be as talented or as athletic as Gonzaga, but they're a team that's going to play hard for 40 minutes. They're going to give you their best from the opening tip-off until the clock says 00. So I think it's going to be a good game. I think the spread is right where it should be.
Okay. Florida State does play 11 deep in their rotation, so they're constantly moving players in and out. So that'll get the Bulldogs tired, but they'll be able to handle it, I'm sure.
And that was a key to their win last year against Gonzaga.
Yes.
It was getting guys who had fresh legs out on the court, and that ended up having a big impact.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, Annie. John mentioned that you need contributions from everyone on this team, and we saw that Baylor game not too long ago. Rui kind of had a slow night, only 2 or 6 points on 2 of 6 shooting. Can Gonzaga beat this Florida State team if they don't get much contribution from Rui?
If the other players step up as well as Brandon Clark did against Baylor, and only if we have that, and then someone else like Corey Kispert kind of come out of the woodwork, he, I think, for the first time this season showed that he can kind of take over like he did. He scored 16 points, which was kind of unexpected for him, and he really added to the Brandon Clark went off, to say the least, against Baylor. So as long as we have that contribution from the other guys, I think Mark Few's built a fairly well-rounded team that's athletic, that can shoot, that has a bunch of different looks. We always have Zach Norvell to stretch, and then Josh Perkins kind of overseeing everything, and he's had a pretty good last couple games as well. So as long as the group effort is there, Mark Few doesn't rely solely on one guy to put up all the points for us.
In my mind, also, Rui and Clark, they need to be careful with their foul trouble, because this team loves to attack the rim, so they're going to want to get to the line as much as possible.
For sure.
It's a sad moment for the Florida State team. Our prayers want to go out to Phil Kofer, one of their senior leaders on this team. His dad unfortunately passed away after the win against Vermont in the first round. So, John, I mean, that's a sad moment, of course, but you got to move on and look forward to this game. What is Florida State losing with this Phil Kofer incident?
Well, yeah, it certainly is unfortunate. We don't want to make light of it, but he hasn't been with the team all tournament. So in terms of rotations and gameplay, they're going to have a similar system in place. At the same time, we've seen throughout history in March, emotions can really make the difference. Even, it's a much different story, but Sister Jean with Loyola last year really kind of rallied them and was like this poster for them. So what's going on in that locker room and the way the coach is leading them, I think that emotional factor could swing this game, because this team's really rallying behind that family right now.
Yeah, Leonard Hamilton was saying that he's fully devoted to this family, and he was there for him. He went over to his hometown to say his prayers and hang out with him for a little bit. So that's always good to see from your head coach. Rob, one last question for you, and this is about the Lady Zags, who unfortunately their season came to an end, but they had a historic one for sure. They had a 29-5 record, a win over a number 8 Stanford team, and they also got a regular season WCC championship. What does this program need to continue to do in order to be more successful than this year's team?
Well, I think it starts with continuing to develop that depth. They've got 3 seniors, key seniors, that are going to be moving on. Just played their final game in a Zag uniform just the other day in that loss against Oregon State. But the thing about this team is they leaned on that depth really from day one of the season. I think if they can continue to develop that depth, girls like Melody Kempton, Louise Forsyth, if those girls can step up next year, I think GU is going to be scary once again. And how about this year's team? I mean, the fact that they battled through adversity, I mean, they went through things that most teams don't even dream of. I mean, the injuries and all the other things that happened outside of basketball. I think there's a lesson to be learned there. They looked at adversity square in the eye and battled through it all the way through that game against Oregon State. So what a year it was for GU, and I think there's going to be a lot of success.
Just because of this season, I'm sure their recruiting is going to be going way up for Lisa Ford. Yeah, it's always looking forward to that. So it'll be a good year, or a good next year for the women Zags.
Absolutely, I agree.
Rob, I appreciate you joining us. Thank you. We love having you on the show, but unfortunately, we got to get Steven back. So.
Hopefully the bracket doesn't plummet after this the way Steven did. So yeah.
I know, we should have switched chairs or something.
Thanks again to our panel. That's all the time we have. Thank you to John, Andrew, and Rob for joining me this week. We'll be back next week to talk more, you guessed it, Gonzaga basketball. The Zags take on the 4th-seeded Florida State later today in the Sweet 16, and we're all hoping that next time on the show, we'll be talking about the Bulldogs in the Final Four once again. Now, back to Nash and Jacob at the anchor desk.
Thanks, Arden, and thanks again to our wonderful guests for joining us today.
Next week on our show, we'll give an update on our bracket competition, highlight Senior of the Week Franny Boyle, take a look into the new Volcar Center Hall of Honors, and sit down with alum Colin McQuilkin. It's going to be a wonderful show, and we're so excited for you. Apologies to Jimmy Kimmel, we've unfortunately ran out of time. For GUTV Bracketology, I'm Jacob Dizon.
And I'm Nash Thompson. Thanks for watching, and as always, go Zags.